How did you lose your best friend? I dated her. Ouch. Suicide. Shot himself in the woods. Wasn't found until 2 weeks later. I was 17 at the time. Still hard for me 8 years later. Hung himself. We had gone for coffee 5 hours earlier. It's only been a few months. Still struggling. There is a reason they chose to spend some of their last hours with you. Stay strong. He groped my sister. Yup, that'll do it. Neighbor and pseudo twins for 12 years. Died when I was 16 from heart defect no one knew about. I've had intense romantic relationships and they got nothing on a great best friend. It's been a long time now. Long enough where I don't visit our hometown on the holidays or talk to any more of our mutual friends. Still haven't found someone who I feel as close to. Maybe my sibling after all these years. I guess the closest thing to it was being siblings because of the loyalty, but it's still way different. Maybe I idolize him and it wasn't that great. Maybe it's because we were best friends since we were little, so he is a key part of my formative years. Maybe when you get older it's harder to make a truly close friend like you do as a kid. Maybe I've lost dozens of potential close friends because he is still rooted in my subconscious somewhere. Frick, it was great. I miss him. I am sorry. Some things are indeed irreplaceable. I fell in love with her. Yup, me too. And she made it clear she didn't feel that way. I got frustrated. Then I blew up. Senior year in high school. We were supposed to have track practice that day, but I had to help my older sister's boyfriend take some stuff to her at college, so I couldn't be there. My best friend skipped practice too and decided to drive by the house of a boy she liked. She took a curve a little too fast and rolled her car. She was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the vehicle. They took her off life support the following day. She posted a status during the Grammys when Ringo and Paul performed talking about how it's been 30+ years since they were together. I corrected her and she got really mad, along with all of her friends, talking about how I ruined her post. She fricked my dad. I told her, BFF of 14 years, that it upset me that she told social media she couldn't make it to my wedding before me. 3 days before she was supposed to be my witness at a courthouse wedding. Realized she unfriended me on Facebook on my wedding day. That was 2 years ago. We live 3 blocks from each other. Crap on her doorstep. First person who was my best friend was murdered by her adopted father. Second person I called my best friend committed suicide. Third person I called my best friend went suddenly weird, claiming a mutual friend was literally a child of Satan and that he couldn't abide by half demons. He refused to speak to me when I stood up for said mutual friend and refused to disown her for her heritage. After quite a bit of drama he moved away and returned to sanity, but according to a few mutual acquaintances is too embarrassed to ever talk to me again. I refuse to call anyone else my best friend ever again. I have close friends. That's good enough. Sorry for your losses, but best friend is just a term, and sometimes they find you. Maybe think of the next one as your closest confidant or funniest frick. Honestly, not trying to be alliterative. Don't be afraid to let people in, and don't feel the need to give labels to the people in your life. He got married to a succubus who knows I'm more fun than her, and limits his playtime with me. Bro down. In 2009, my best friend was struck and killed by a train while walking. Her name was Tyler Yen. That's a girl's name too. It was the 17th of September, 2009. We live in a very small town in Minnesota called Buffalo. The local Target was within easy walking distance of her townhouse. She just had to walk a short distance on the railroad tracks. She went to go get a set of headphones before meeting me back at her place. She never made it home. It was ruled an accidental death due to conflicting evidence. She had the new noise-cancelling headphones in at the time. She was on a seldom used sidetrack, and the wood ties dampen the vibrations enough to not feel the train until it's too late. It's been almost 5 years and I miss her every day. To everyone who just drifts apart with their best friends, take some time to call them and catch up. Please don't wait until you never have the opportunity again to tell them how grateful you are to have them, and that you love them. She got into drugs. I didn't. He had an enlarged heart that he hadn't told anyone about. It was very sudden and unexpected. I don't know if I'll ever be able to be as close to someone as I was to him. Life is weird now. My husband, now ex, cheated on me with her. He left his wife and 3 kids, including a 1-month-old, for a woman he worked with. Just can't respect someone who does that. Esophageal cancer at 30. The transition from high school to college is rough. She got discovered as a model and her head inflated. She started bossing me and others around and I started avoiding her. I lost a good friend to suicide. Years of bullying for being gay finally got to him. That's really terrible. I'm sorry. I came out as gay and she promptly informed me that I have no morals. My best friend did this too. We met online, were best freaking friends for years, but she couldn't understand what would drive me to such a thing. The best part was when I talked to her a couple months later, she had a new BFF that was, you guessed it, a lesbian. He died about a year ago. Him and his brother were playing with a gun they didn't know was loaded one Saturday night. Next thing you know, his younger brother shoots him and my best friend died 10 minutes later. Really put life into perspective as far as how I treated my friends at the time and to enjoy my life a little more. She lied, cheated on her husband, attempted unethical behavior at work, and tried to hang me out to dry with my colleagues. I have been nothing more than cool and professionally cordial in 10+ years. My best friend thought he was really awesome, trustworthy etc. Even though other people said he was a dong or a W, I always stood up for him when he wasn't around, saying he was a good guy and stuff. I always felt him and I were great mates that had a bond. Senior year came around and with prom in a couple of weeks everyone was getting partners and making plans. I told him I was going to ask this girl I liked to prom whilst I was chatting to her online one night. He talked me out of it, saying I should do it the next day at school as it would be more heartfelt. Little did I know at that very moment he went online and straight up asked her to prom. He didn't even mention anything to me until the next day, until I found out from the girl myself. He still acts as if we are good mates, but I just feel as if he violated my trust. Really just can't stand to be around him anymore. Even the thought of it makes me feel physically sick. What a sucker. Honestly, I was a selfish butthole and only thought of myself. He would always put up with my crap until one day he just couldn't anymore. I don't blame him at all, and it made me realize how stupid and full of myself I was. I like to think that I've grown out of that, and I constantly try to think of others instead of myself every day now as a result. Learning is hard, but worth it. Man, I feel like I have to keep on reminding myself of this. Leukemia. Me too. And I was with him through every step of the way, accompanied him to chemo and such. I wasn't able to gather the courage to go to his wake, nor to his funeral. Haven't visited his grave or anything, though it's been almost 5 years. I'd rather remember him alive. One of them took up modeling and her head got so freaking huge she couldn't understand basic human interaction anymore, like how to be a nice person or how not to be the worst friend ever. It ended very suddenly in a large and explosive fight where she said some of the most hurtful things I could ever imagine, such as that when I got cancer it was a real nuisance for her to have to come see me and that it had been very selfish of me. The other accidentally got pregnant and can only interact with other mommies. Nothing of value was lost. He slowly started changing over the 5 years I've known him. He is now the most condescending, arrogant, boring, hating, egotistical downer I know. I saw these changes happen to him slowly over the years and luckily I am comfortable enough to tell it to his face, but he literally doesn't care and does not want to change for anyone. I currently live with him, but as soon as the lease is over, I am telling him how much I don't like him anymore. He is still sadly my closest friend, but I am getting closer to others as this friendship worsens. Feels good to get some of that off my chest. I placed my mirror somewhere in the garage. Couldn't find it. Sorry. She got really religious. She lost her virginity to a guy that pretty much blew her off and said it wasn't anything serious right after it happened. Interestingly, she had identified as mostly lesbian before this. After that she started talking about how really Orthodox Jews respect women, how you need to cover yourself because it shows respect for yourself, along with some other crazy stuff about not eating milk and meat in the same meal and not being allowed to use electricity on the Sabbath. She got married around 20 to somebody she dated for 3 months, had a kid at 22, pretty much lost all drive to do anything other than be a housewife. I'm actually still pretty bitter about it, and I haven't talked to her in 4-5 years. I don't think I could really describe how much it hurt when she started telling our other, gay close friend that being gay was wrong. I think that's around when I knew that she wasn't the same person. I'm all for religion and whatnot. Heck, I'm a former Catholic, but any god that directs you to judge others based on superficial reasons ain't no god that I recognize. My best friend died when we were both 22, 2 years ago. Born 5 days apart, we had such a close bond. Even when I moved over 1,000 miles away, I never really realized he was different until we got older. Then, when puberty hit, his mobility really went down and spent more time in a chair or with a walker. When we finally got to college, he decided he wanted to study bio so that maybe one day he could find a cure. He was kicked out of college for smoking marijuana medicinally. Frick. It hurts me even to type this, which I could tell was really depressing for him. On a whim, I took my girlfriend on a road trip to Florida to visit him, and it was the last time I ever saw him. It kills me how naive I was on the phone the last time I spoke to him. I love you, buddy. I'll see you again soon. At least he knew how much I loved him. Hope I can make you proud, buddy. You are my reason for changing careers and studying medicine. My best friend and I had a disagreement which he was right about and I wasn't, and I drifted apart. I was going to apologize, but before I could, he passed away from cancer. R.I.P. Kevin. Found out he was an Uchiha. I am Uzumaki. I guess that instantly forces you to be my best friend. She stopped talking to me. We were literally in the middle of a conversation and she stopped replying. 2 days later, after talking to another friend, I found out her and her family hadn't been around our usual group for 2 weeks. He thought she was staying at my house. I got one 5-sentence email from her in January and haven't heard a word from her since. I found out they went back to Korea for medical treatment. Only 2 months back, she died. Suddenly. Not one of those illnesses that lets you know you're about to lose someone. Not a car accident where you can blame someone. Sudden cardiac arrest. 2 months have passed and I'm doing a lot better. But when you realize that you lost someone that no one can replace, trying to pick up the pieces isn't easy. Especially when you realize that others are hurting worse than you. It makes me cherish those who I have left. It makes me remember to not take life for granted. It makes me hurt. But yet it makes me stronger, because I won't forget this pain, and I won't forget how much she meant to me. I moved overseas. Over time, the promises of keeping in touch and meeting up every time I came home faded. Not just her, either, but many of my closest friends just wound up drifting apart. Now I've finished college and I'm finally home, but now everyone is overseas in turn, and every day I feel the pain of the irony. Now all I have is an occasional exchange on Facebook, a few happy photos from the past, and the memories of the best years of my life. I miss her. I miss them. Not a day goes past when I wonder if moving was really the best choice, as studying independently overseas away from family as a 14-year-old was pretty dang freaking tough. I was depressed, struggling to cope, and hated life for most of the early years. Sometimes I wish I just ignored the opportunity and chose to stay back home where I would have been happy, and maybe with that I'd still have my friends today. I just want you to know that this not only left me speechless, but also brought tears to my eyes. I'm so sorry things turned out this way for you. Losing the irreplaceable people in our lives is the hardest. In the lamest way ever, her and I were best friends from 5th grade till 10th grade. We did everything together, experienced our awkward phases together, grew up and experienced life together. She started seeing a guy in 8th grade. You're so early. I know. But they were serious and she spent a lot of time with him. It never bothered me initially because my boyfriend at the time was her boyfriend's best friend. It was just another opportunity to hang out. I changed boyfriends through the years, but she stayed with a guy and started to have major problems where he was forcing her to do sexual things she wasn't comfortable with or threatening to hit her. She would complain endlessly to me on how horribly he treated her, crying at time about how she was scared of him. I spent endless hours giving her advice, but it never helped. She always went back. Midway through high school there was a period where they broke up and I saw him trying to fool around with another girl. When I told her this, he covered his butt and called me jealous and crazy, and to my shock, she accused me of being a liar. Being a typical high school mean girl, I bitched her out and we stopped being friends. I get new friends but we always remained in the same friend circle, just at opposite corners. I watched her do things she always was firmly against but it wasn't my problem anymore. We graduated sitting next to each other, close last names, and smiled and were happy but we never got back to normal. Kind of wish high school balls like that didn't ruin such a great friendship, but we are both away at different schools and have different lives now. The person I thought was my best friend was so wrapped up in her own drama and problems that she could not be there for me when I needed someone to just listen. I was pretty hurt by this as I helped her through a lot. I gave it 6 months and I tried to start talking to her again and she never even asked about my crisis. She just started complaining about a guy she went on a date with. Nothing changed. I gave up. I was having a hard time with my group of friends because this one girl who was a total cow hated me and would spread lies around the group saying about how I was being a jerk to her when it was the other way around. Eventually later on in the year I began to get sexually harassed and nobody would help me, and said jerk was telling everyone I was a ass and was doing it to make fun of her because she's fat. Of course everybody believed her, including my best friend. I don't talk to that group anymore, but it's the worst thing when not even your best friend doesn't even try to help you or believe you for that matter. It definitely changed me the year afterward and it's kinda hard for me to really get close to people now. In a bus accident with my elementary school field trip. It was all the teacher's fault. This is Diamond SpongeBob. He only appears every 200,000 videos. Subscribe for good luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.